Let's start with your story, right? So
Yeah.
you were born and raised.
I was born in Kansas City, Kansas. I came here to Bakersfield when I was about 6 years old, actually. My family stayed back in Kansas. My mom came out here. My grandparents had some land. My mom was running from her abusive husband who said he was going to kill her. And so she came out to where she had closest family that had a place for her to stay. That was in Tehachapi. As soon as he was out of prison, he ended up finding her. They ended up, of course, magically getting back together. It was love.
Yeah. Well,
And,
I'm sorry. I won't do it again.
So they got back together. Then she ended up having getting pregnant with my sister, which is her third child. She had some complications. They needed to go to a closest hospital and place with better medical, and that was Bakersfield. So we were in Tehachapi, and then we came to Bakersfield. And then so I was here from about, I think, 7 years on in Bakersfield.
Living in Seven Oaks at the country club.
Out here to there, from the trailer park
Silver
to Seven
spoon.
Oaks, sitting in my mouth. I don't know who carried me to my chair. I don't know. Somebody combed my hair, but no, it was one of those things where, yeah, absolutely not that start. And then it was my mom and raising three girls by herself. She had me when she was 18. She had just turned 18, and yeah, so she did end up escaping eventually, and. Then started her life. We lived off of Water Street in East Bakersfield.
Right.
And then we moved to Oildale. And then I grew up there, lived
Moving
in
on
Oildale. You know it. Yeah, then I went to North High and graduated from there and literally wanted to get out as soon as I could.
Right.
But I grew up there, and they had a sweet little theater there, the Melodrama Musical Theater.
Oh, yeah. The one on
So,
China Grade Loop.
yeah.
That used to be okay.
Yeah, so it was like, but little did I know it was a professional theater. So it was a little professional playhouse. They get all their people from Unified Professional Theater Association. But I saw, a show as like a little kid, and I was about 14 years old, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to work there.
Okay, so that's where the music started.
Yeah. So I was like, and I remember wanting to sing like early on. I was, 10. I did the Star Search Comes to Bakersfield. And, I looked, like a little singing deer in headlights. And it was frightening and wonderful when you look back at the memory. But yeah, so I started doing shows. I think my first show was I was 15 years old at North High. And then that's really just kind of when I was like, okay, I'm going to be on this melodrama stage. But they didn't hire local performers except for maybe once or twice a year.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so I went and I tried to kind of get in, missed their audition point. And then they said, we do really like your
That's
person.
fine. Thanks, baby.
Baby, we really like your personality. We have a job available for a box office person. Oh, baby.
Literally the dog.
I love it. It's literally like all over. Just dripping from my
Spit
eye.
flies, babies.
No, but yeah, so I was like, yeah, I want a job. So they offered me, because I called over and over and over again just to try and
Persistent,
get
right.
in. And so they said, no, come work with us. And I thought, I'm going to get to know everybody at that theater. And then I'm going to meet all of them. And then I'm going to audition. I'm just going to sing around the box office. And they're going to be like, are you a singer? And that's exactly how it happened.
So how did you train, though? Did you just train yourself? Just like
I didn't.
figured out the...
I studied, and it's funny because the training composition didn't come until much later in my life and in my career, and the diligent training didn't come until after an injury. So it was one of those.
But that's an exponential leap from high school trying to make it into melodrama to American Idol. So how does that work?
Yeah, that was regimented mental training. So, for example, I knew I didn't want what I had anymore. So I knew I didn't want to have struggle. I knew I didn't want to have challenge. I didn't want to wake up with everything being so hard all the time. I had no vision and version of success around me.
Right.
So everything was just what was on TV.
Right. So there wasn't a model like or a mentor that was like, oh, here's what you do.
No.
Okay.
There was no parent. There was no, and I saw my mom. My mom did the best she could, obviously, but it was literally making ends meet, you know, and it was working 13 hours a day. We were absolutely latchkey kids. I think I joked to some of my students that here and there that intermittently I would like smoke cigarettes when I was like 9 or 10 just because I was home alone.
And why not?
And isn't that what 9-year-olds do when they're home alone?
What am I not supposed to do? Okay. Try that.
So that kind of, and they're like, "What? You smoke cigarettes?" I'm like, "Yeah, that was those were the days where you learn the hard lessons."
I was trying to get that Stevie Nicks voice going.
Really good. Now here, all gruff and you know, like, so it was, yeah. So I learned then that I just didn't want to have the challenge, and so I really started studying. I started studying like Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey and Barbra Streisand and Celine Dion, and I would listen to them over and over and over again, and I would try to create the sounds that they would create.
Oh, okay.
And so I would do like mouth manipulation and different things like that, and vocal modulation to, you know, match sound and create resonance sound that was similar to their sound. And so I started kind of teaching myself early on, really. And then to make ends meet for myself, I ended up going and doing like makeup art intermittently. So as a makeup artist, I was, you know, at like Gottschalk's, you know, working for Clarins or Lancome or Clinique or whatever. And that was really fun because that ended up obviously helping me pay my bills while simultaneously like pursuing my dreams and my career. And I did that in LA too when I ended up moving to LA when I was 19.
Right.
I went to go work at an ad agency, and a death happened, and I ended up just kind of like a detour and all that kind of stuff, and then starting over again. Right. So, yeah.
So, how did the whole thing of getting? Well, you were on American Idol season 3.
Yeah, season 3.
Okay,
season 3
made the top 10, right?
Yeah, the top 10.
So, had you tried out before that season?
Yeah, I had tried out season 2, and that actually was what gave me my diligent kind of fight and fire. Was I went out season 2, and they said, you know, hey, you're a pretty girl, pretty voice, but there's really nothing special about you. So I had made it to the executive producers. They were the ones who gave me that information. So you do kind of a couple rounds
one of
first.
many.
Yes. And you do a couple of rounds of auditions first before you even get to the executive producers. But the executive producers gave me feedback that, in my opinion, I think changed my life and changed the trajectory of what I wanted to do and opted to do.
Right.
Because then I became diligent. That's when I was like, oh, nothing special about me. And I thought to myself, at first I could take offense. But then I thought, no, I went in like it was a fancy job interview. I wasn't myself at all. Right. There was nothing special about me. There was nothing standing out about me.
Yeah, but you have to be willing to accept that constructive criticism, right?
Absolutely.
You could have taken it as, okay, no, all right, I'm done. I'll just go back to doing theater.
Yeah.
In Bakersfield.
Yeah.
Or you can do what you did.
Yeah.
Which is really lean into it, right?
And I did. And I happily leaned into it.
Right.
I happily leaned into it to the point where I thought, not only am I not going to just be that kind of nothing special, I'm gonna full blast myself. So that's when I was like, I'm gonna live out loud, and I'm gonna practice living out loud. Right. I'm gonna train every single day. Right. Really kind of lean into my personality.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because that, like, we talk a lot about this stuff, but that's what happens when you are your authentic self.
Oh, absolutely.
Versus, this is what I think this is what they're looking for.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to try to be that. And then they turn around and tell you, that's not what we're looking for.
That ain't it. Yeah.
So you just leaned into you.
Yes. Which I think probably, like I said, it was probably the best information for me. It was the best information I could get. And a lot of times I work with artists, you know, where these days they just take offense to that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I always tell them, no, this is happening for you, not to you.
Right.
This is for you. Yeah. So
but you have to be coachable.
Yes. And getting to the place where I knew, okay, I have to do something different than what I'm doing. And I didn't even know what to do. So I tried something and it didn't work.
Right.
And so then the age limit was 24. So I technically only had 1 year.
Right.
And that was the year. And so I literally studied every single book. So it was Simon, Paula, and Randy. And I studied every book they wrote. I watched the show. Every single contestant that went, I wrote down every comment from the judge. I looked at the way they put certain artists in certain places. Excuse me. I looked at how they opened the show. I looked at how they closed the show. I looked at what they talked about, what they featured, what stood out about people, the way they told stories about their lives. And so I just navigationally taught myself how to direct as well.
Yeah, I never really thought about it, but you hear about it in sports all the time,
Yeah.
right? Like with my son-in-law, it's like they study every hitter they're going to come up against, and every hitter studies every pitcher and all their little nuances.
Yeah.
But I've never thought about somebody applying it to the music industry. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
you need to understand the game if you're going to play.
It's all a game.
Right.
Every
Life
bit
is, right?
of everything that we do is a game.
Right.
And I always say, if you want to win the game, play by their rules.
Right.
If that's the game you want to play,
Right.
and you want to be in the entertainment industry and you want to be on American Idol, play by their rules.
Right. Learn what there are.
Yeah. People, I have coached so many people, so many artists auditioning and, oh, well, I want to be on the show. And I'll say, great. I can literally tell you what you need to do, what you need to sing, what you need to share about your story, the highlights of your story.
Right.
And then we go from there. And I promise you, if you do it, you will make it. You will make it to Hollywood. You will get the opportunity to try for the thing. Right. If you don't listen to me and you think you're going to play the game by your rules,
Right.
you're not going to make it.
Yeah, it's exactly the same in professional sports, right?
Yeah.
You can tell somebody, hey, if you want to be a major league pitcher, here's what you got to do.
Yeah.
But the percentage of people that will do it with the discipline you were talking about, the daily discipline
Yeah.
for however long it is. And that's so that's a question I have for you. Because I like watching all the shows because I like discovering talent. But there's always a weird thing of, is it fast forwarding careers? Is it, because a lot of people you hear on there did what you did, right?
Right.
I've been out performing 5 years, 10 years, and not gotten a break.
Right.
But then you'll see these phenom kids show up that are all of a sudden on this platform. And
Yeah.
So that's my question. What do you think is there a danger in that when you haven't really worked for it and you hadn't really?
Oh yeah. So when we, as idols or reality TV people, break into the industry and have our first job,
Right.
people are waiting for us to fail.
Right.
Waiting.
Yeah.
They're waiting for us to see, oh, you're cute. You're going to go do a Broadway show. You're going to do 8 shows a week.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's cute.
Yeah.
And then they think, okay, you're not even going to be able to have it or even hack it. And you can, maybe you'll get past rehearsals and you can go into put in and whatever. Right. But no, they're kind of waiting for that.
Well, because you made it in the top 10, right?
I did.
So your life then becomes engulfed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So what was that like? Like, because everybody sees the show ends and then it's like, okay, well, we'll wait till next season. But that's when the work really kicks in.
It really is. It's so funny because I will look back at pictures and I'll think, well, for heaven's sakes, if someone would have told me that was an album cover, I would have dressed up, you know? I was like, thanks a lot, Clive Davis. So, but, those are those things where I thought, they just tell you to go this place, be here at this time, do this at this time. And you did. There were times I would walk the red carpet and I looked at things back and they're like Amy Adams, the makeup artist who needs a makeover. And it's like, heck yeah, I want a makeover. I am a girl from Oildale. Yeah. Give me a makeover. Like, make me over. Yeah. So it's you're catapulted into the game, you end up just doing the thing. And I remember when we were top 12, they all sat us down, brought in an attorney. He explained, okay, those who make it to the top 10 will go on the tour. You will get a signing bonus for being on the tour. And then that's where you're, marketed by Coke and Pop-Tarts and all the people and all the things. So you're signing things, you're doing commercials. I would get residuals for things afterward,
Right.
that it was like, whoa, dang. Oh, thanks. And it's like Pop-Tarts tour or Coke commercial and you're like, oh, thanks a lot.
That's right. I did do that.
I did do that. But you're not thinking about it.
Right.
You're
Because they own your schedule, right?
Yes, they own your schedule. And so much of, obviously, if you hear any of the stories, like with, Carrie Underwood and Kelly Clarkson having to buy themselves out of their own contracts, them being the winners of the game, they did have to buy themselves out of their contracts. And rightly so. I really think rightly so. Because that big machine was able to pump out a lot of those things that they would not have otherwise had potentially.
Yeah. And I think that's the crazy part of it is, but I think it's like anything that be careful what you ask for, right?
Oh,
You got it.
oh yeah.
And then life's a whirlwind.
Yeah.
You're all over the place.
Yeah.
So then how do you go from that? So did you tour alone after that, or were you just
No,
idle?
so we toured with the Idols for 5 months. That was United States, Canada, and Singapore. And it was again, that careful what you wish for. My goal was top 10. I told myself, you're working and you're making top 10.
Right.
And what's interesting when we talk about manifestation later on,
Right.
is 10 was my focus.
Right. And you got it.
I got it.
But you never focused on, I'm going to win this.
I didn't even think about winning.
Right.
I didn't even think about winning.
Why? Was it too far out of the realm of...
Who around me was winning?
Right.
Where did I see winning?
Yeah. I just want to be seen.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what winning...
No. And part of the work that allows me to do the work that I do with the kids and going back into the schools and going back into North High, my school, and pouring back into those kids is I want to show them what winning looks like.
Right.
I want to show them what not hard looks like.
Right.
I want to show them what working hard now so you can have easy later looks like.
Yeah, put in the time and the effort.
Yeah.
And that was back to my question of when things happen too quickly. It's just like the stats on people that win the lottery.
Yeah.
Right? They all end up broke again.
Yeah, they don't know what to do with that money.
Right.
They would have had that money before.
Right. There's no concept of it, right?
Yeah.
So but then from that to Vegas. So were those tryouts that you got on the Vegas shows? Because you were on La Rev.
Oh, yeah. So with, again, the industry game, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about, is once you do Idol, you have a platform where I was able to get things that I wouldn't otherwise have. And it's so funny because my friend on the show, Fantasia Barrino, who is just blowing up in all the ways that she should be. She's an awesome, awesome lady. She would always say, like, Amy, just do this. Just ask. And I'm like, okay. Like, I never even thought of asking.
Right.
And so afterward, like,
because you just assumed the answer was going to be no in your head, because that's it had always been.
You don't even
right?
think to ask. You don't think to ask. So that even asking the universe for the opportunity, or asking somebody for an audition, and it's funny because even after the show ended and I was done with the tour, and I was at the time I was 8 months pregnant, and so it was like, what do I do now? And definitely in a relationship that was very tragic for, myself and my life, and very hard in that time of life. But I learned so much. And they called me from a company, and Andrew Lloyd Webber did a revival tour of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Right. And a person that I worked with on Idol, Nigel Wright, is Andrew Lloyd Webber's right-hand producer and has produced all of his, albums and Phantom and Cats and all the things that everything Andrew Lloyd Webber had done, Nigel Wright had helped produce on. And Nigel worked with me in the studio and on Idol, and they said, hey, ask this Amy Adams chick from American Idol. So they called me, and I was all pregnant on my couch. They made me the offer, and I was like, do I just say yes? And they're like, yes, we actually offered it to Jodie Benson, who was the voice of The Little Mermaid. Deborah Gibson had the tour before me.
Right.
And so they're like, all you have to do is say yes. The co-star that's going to work with you actually, likes your stuff and would love to work with you. And I was like, so I just say yeah. And they said, yep. And then, I said, I have a baby. And I said, that's fine. You can bring your baby with you. And I was like, on tour? And they're like, yeah. And so I lived out of a travel trunk. And I had this wonderful woman who was my production developer called Luann Madorma. And she is my fairy godmother. And to this day, every job I ever got that I didn't know about or audition for, I got from her.
Really?
She's a casting director.
Right. Okay.
And she became one of my dearest friends.
That's awesome.
And yeah, that's, 20 something years ago.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And she helped me negotiate my contracts. And so we're, flying first class, and I have a nanny, and we have
Right.
all the things. And I didn't even know people like that existed out there.
Right. So was that the first person that showed you not even to ask, but this is how it's going to be?
Yeah. So she was one of the first handful of people. My first person was my mentor. His name's Jess Mercado, and he was an attorney, and he ended up actually kind of managing me for a bit right after Idol. And I remember I would charge, $500 for an appearance. And he's like, you're not charging $500 for an appearance. You just made thousands of dollars to do something on a TV show.
Right.
We're going to charge a more appropriate amount. He came in and really kind of started showing me, again, a bit of the game.
Yeah. Like, hey, you're going to get what you asked for.
Oh, absolutely.
And so if you're asking for little, you'll get little.
Yeah. Yeah. And to this day, every now and again, I'll make a mention of him, or I'll email him, or, send him a message and just let him know, like, thank you so much, because what you told me here is exactly what's happening now,
Right.
25 years ago.
Yeah. So at that time, you're starting, your eyes are opening. You're starting to see the world in a different way.
Yeah.
Did you think that this would be where you'd end up?
No. No. And it's funny because even the journey now, I remember thinking about being famous.
Right.
And then I remember after that kind of getting off a plane in Boston when we were on tour. And I remember people knowing me in a place that wasn't my city. And I'm like, I don't know if I like that.
Oh, yeah. There's no anonymity, right?
I didn't know if I liked that.
Yeah.
When someone took a picture of, like, my cart at Target, this is before social media.
Right.
And I have, I think Coke and tampons or something like that, where it's
It's a
just like,
glamorous life.
Yeah, don't get jealous. I can see your jealousy, people. So, yeah, so it was definitely one
That's
of
right. I got the 18 pack.
extra absorbent.
Exactly.
So, anyway, I'm sure you probably have no guests talking about this wonderful stuff, but
Never dawned on me to ask.
now that you brought it up,
Moving on.
isn't there a professional moderator around here to move this along? No, but no, I mean,
part of that,
you don't
though,
think
is-
about it.
As a celebrity, people forget that they're people.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You still live, they still go shopping.
Yeah,
You still need the essentials of life, right? So
Yeah.
it's like people are shocked sometimes. Like you still hear movie star. Oh, I saw this movie star at a grocery store. Yeah. Where you get groceries.
yeah. He did the same thing you did. Oh my gosh.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, that's so weird. No, it is. There is. I think there's this. Social media has kind of changed that a bit now, where you have regular people becoming, celebrities based upon the influence that they have over people.
Right.
And that for me, back then it wasn't we didn't have massive influence over people in their daily lives, and they still knew who we were. And it was just, we're not even flooding their feeds every day. We're just
Right.
living our lives, and we just happened to be on the number one TV show at the time.
Right.
And so different now.
Yeah.
So different now.
Different. But I think that was one of the weird things I saw recently when they asked like kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Influencers now become one of the top, if not the top
Yeah.
goal
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I don't care what field you want to go into, music, sports, or even that. The percentage of people that actually make it
Oh,
to
yeah.
that high level is infant. I mean, it's
And I don't, I don't even think people think about what the actual word influencer means.
right.
I think the title is a popular title,
Right.
but I don't think that they actually think about, I have influence over all of these people.
Right.
And I always think about like what your life is a reflection of you and what you are influenced by.
Right. Which is a weird thing, right? Because
Yeah.
you're actually, people are following you to see what they should do.
Yeah.
That's how you are an
Yeah.
influencer, right?
Yeah, and then if you are so caught up in somebody else's way of doing things that you decide to copy them or become a version of what they're doing,
Right.
that's your influence. And and I look at that as like kind of like the mind of sheeps, where it's like, that's an interesting thing to do. They market it as a follow.
Yeah.
They branded it
is.
as a follow.
That's what, yeah. I'm
Like, what
following
are
this
you
person.
following? What
Right.
is influencing you? What is changing your life?
Right. So you better be careful.
Yeah.
What you're putting in, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that, because you and I, we've known each other since back somewhere around the Idol days.
Yeah.
But then you don't really know anybody's story, right? So I remember when I contacted you after I got separated, I was like, hey, do you take any clients? Because I've always wanted to sing. I just don't know how to do it. But I was amazed how quickly you flipped it around to, before we started talking about singing, who are you? Like, what are you about?
Yeah.
Because and at the time I was like, what do you mean? Isn't there just exercises you do?
Can't you just give me some exercises? Sure.
The do, re, mi, fa. I'm gonna go here and sing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not what this is about.
No.
So I think that I remember one of our first sessions, because I was just trying to, like, my whole world was upside down, right? Like,
Yeah.
what do I do? And it was the manifesting thing that really, well, it led to here.
Yeah.
The house. It led
I know.
to my life. So let's talk about that first. You did the 410s, which I stole too. I use that with my clients.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. I'm so
because
glad.
I think it's like the 10 celebrations,
Yeah.
right? 10 things you celebrate yourself. And I remember that was the hardest one for me.
For people who are achievers, that is actually the hardest.
Right. Because you don't celebrate.
You don't even think to.
No.
You think about achieve. Okay, I did it. Achieve. I did it. And that's why Tony Robbins talks about a truly fulfilled life is the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment.
Right.
So practicing both sides, and without the practice of the art of fulfillment,
Right.
you don't feel fulfilled.
Yeah. And that was one of the things you started talking about, was like, manifest it. Mm-hmm. What do you basically, you told me you got a clean slate right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do you want out of life? I had the therapy company and some other ideas, but it was just such an eye-opening thing to look at. Yeah, I've accomplished all this, but who am I really? Like, what am I doing this for? And
Right.
where do I want it to go?
Yeah.
Because I was like you were growing up. I never thought. I mean, just that level, I was like, almost a guilt, like, I shouldn't ask for too much more.
Yes.
Like, I'm already way beyond what I was supposed to be. So is it guilt? Is it bad to ask for even more?
Yes.
And you were the first person who was like, no.
No. You got to start, and that you cannot be what you cannot see.
Right.
That, and then knowing too, from my own study and from my own experience and from my own injury, and then when I started coaching, and why I started coaching is because I had to move myself through where I was. So then I started coaching and studying the voice, and then I started studying the brain. Mm-hmm. And then I got caught up on cases like Shania Twain, where she had a vocal block,
Right.
where she had a physical block. And those psychological and physical blocks within the body manifest themselves in some part of the body. which creates that great body dis-ease.
Right.
So if you think, oh, I'm gonna sing all these songs, I'm gonna get it all out. No, honey, you can't. You're swimming in your pain. And in the swim in the pain, you can't even gain traction
Right.
because you have so much happening that you don't even know where to put it.
Right.
And so you can't, it's so hard to make something out of it because you are either trying to experience it or not dream big or not plan for more because you are, okay, this is fine. And maybe I should be going through this, or maybe I should be experiencing this hardship, and you get lost in what you actually truly feel you deserve. And so that part of the brain, kind of rewiring that ask inside of the brain, like, no, clearing out all the noise.
Right.
Who are you? Who is the man that you are that came to my door that said, hey, help me with this?
Right. Like, yeah. And I think you're dead on with it. You can't see what you can't see. I mean,
Yeah.
well, you don't even know to look.
Yeah.
So when you start going down that pathway of, okay, pump the brakes, like, think about the person,
Oh, yeah.
think about the house. And I think that's it's a funny story that you talk about is manifesting. Well, first of all, the pendulum switch, right? That we talked about from, okay, I went from one relationship that wasn't good, so I'm going to go to the opposite end.
Yeah.
Then you're shocked that doesn't work. But I love the story about how you manifested Ted. Like, this is the person I want, right?
Oh, my delicious man. Yeah.
Yeah. But the story about, because you even said down to like a head movement or a gesture.
Yeah,
or something.
he does this thing. He has really big hands. And I remember we sat at our first coffee meeting together, and he does this thing. He kind of does this when he's talking and does like this. And so his ginormous hands come up to his face. He does this, and then he's making a point. And I was like, I need to excuse myself. I have to use the restroom. And my brain was just like, oh my gosh. It was that reality smack. And I had been an active manifestation. Like,
Right.
he looks like this. He talks like this. His voice hits me here. His voice grabs me, that kind of. And then I remember sitting with him and having that energy exchange and thinking, sweet heavens to Betsy, like,
You're here.
game on. And so I just remember being like, oh, okay, this is something. And
Yeah.
that was 8.5 years ago.
Yeah. But I think it's cool that, because that was the first time we talked about it a lot over those first few years. It's like, okay, what do you want? And then what's your no-go zone? Like, what's your, no.
Yeah.
As soon as I see this, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But all the way down to the gestures, because I think everybody thinks about it like, oh, if I could just find somebody that looks like,
Oh, yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. And
Jackman, or, oh, I just want somebody that looks like Carrie Underwood. Okay, well, that's cool, but
that's cool. Guess
you
what?
know
You
the
don't
whole-
even get to hang out with Carrie because she works out all the
Yeah,
time. So she's
exactly.
not trying to hang out with you.
and you don't know the whole story. Right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and I thought that was the interesting part you brought up about manifesting is be careful what you manifest, because if you don't think through the whole package or the person,
Yeah.
you're going to get what you ask for. So it might be the beautiful gal,
Yeah.
but you don't know what's coming along with it.
No, and the subconscious mind doesn't speak a language. It's repetition and emotion.
Right.
So repetition and emotions, you can say, don't think of the pink elephant, but your brain doesn't hear the don't.
Right.
Your subconscious mind and everybody in this room thought of the pink elephant.
Right.
And that's what it is. So the brain, whatever you will focus on. So having the acknowledgement of, okay, I know that those things out there exist. So people who, cheat on people and, don't treat them right and whatever. But if you focus on that,
That's what you're
guess what you're going to get?
Right.
Because that repetition and emotion is, I am not trying to get a man who is like my ex-husband. I am not trying to do this. And then that's what happens. And why do I keep getting the same man over and over? It's what you are focusing on.
Right.
And that you and me explaining to you, listen to me. I need you to focus. I need you to down to what she looks like, how she is in exchanges with you, how she is at home, her contentment, her courtesy, her kindness. That's what we focus on.
Right.
That's the way we build them
And
from the ground
manifest
up.
the complete package.
Yes. Yes.
Not just a piece of it.
No.
right? I think it's funny because like what you're just saying always clicks a quote I heard which was about the difference between amateur golfers and professional golfers. Amateur golfers stand on the tee and go, okay, there's sand trap over here, there's rough over here, there's water over here. But then the professional golfer looks and goes, oh, look at all the green. Look at how big the fairway is in this area.
Yes.
Because you block out where you're drawing yourself to that.
Yes.
Okay, don't hit it in the water.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in the water. How did I do that? Because that's what you thought about.
Yeah.
You thought about the water, and your body's just like, oh, okay, hit it in the water.
Yeah, I got it. I got you. We're in there, pal.
Yeah, we got it. Isn't that great? Like, no. Focus on the fairway.
Get out of the water, babe. Yeah, no, and it really, that's the life-changing component. I mean, that's truly why, but again, my first mentor, that was his way of thinking. That was his foundational thought processes. That was, hey, you focus on what you want, not what you don't. Right. And even, the Rose Bryn came out obviously with the ever popular The Secret, and that was super popular when I was doing that field of study. And
yeah, the laws of attraction.
Laws of attraction, all of that. And a lot of, people will say, oh, that's booga booga, whatever. But I promise you, if you even tried it, anybody listening to this, if you tried thinking positively instead of negatively, literally just try it for 7 days. See what it does for your life.
Yeah. Between gratitude and focusing on positive.
Yeah.
I think that's a big piece. Everybody's, oh, gratitude's important. Yeah, because you're focusing on, this is what's accomplished. I'm thankful for what I've got.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you don't take the next step to, okay, what's next?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And then be grateful when it comes.
Right.
And I loved all of our conversations about the universe and putting stuff out in the universe. But be careful when you do, because it shows up.
It's going to come.
Yeah.
So you ordered it.
Right.
And it's very much like what you order, it's going to bring the workload that comes with it too.
Right.
And that's the thing that people forget.
Right.
Is that, oh, I ordered this massive successful company. I ordered this, I ordered this going viral, post. Great. It's going to happen.
Yeah, now what?
But it also brings work with it.
Right.
Are you ready to do the work that comes with what you're ordering?
Yeah. So that's that book, The 4-Hour Workweek, that was huge, right?
Yeah.
And I read it, and it was another one of those like, well, wow, if you could do it with that, if you have a business, you could do this.
And yeah.
Right? So I started thinking about that. But then I saw an interview about Tim Ferriss wrote that book, was living that lifestyle.
Right.
But he writes a #1 bestseller, and he becomes his own brand.
Right.
So now his schedule's gone.
Right.
Book signings, book tours, giving speeches around the world.
Yes.
And now you can't even write what you wrote about, because by becoming famous for that, everybody wants to hear your story.
Yeah. And the job has him.
Yeah, the job has you. And that's what I watch, people in business. It's like, and I think in the business world, it's a danger for owners if they we call it the founder's trap, right?
Right.
You created it, but it becomes your prison. Everybody goes into business for themselves because they want freedom.
Right.
But then you find out you're not free.
No. And that book, I think it's like, what is it? E-Myth or something like that.
Yeah, E-Myth Revisited.
Yeah. And it's that same thing, like that manager, entrepreneur, technician, where it's like you are prompted, like, I'm never going to work for some jerk like this, talking to me like this, or dealing with this, and I'm doing this myself. Go ahead. And then you start doing all of it yourself. Right. And then you are, again, a slave to the job.
Right. You have no control over.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of our work together was, so you asked me, like, what is it you really want? And I said, I want freedom. And you're like, okay, what does that mean? Freedom to live where I want to live, be with who I want to be with, and travel when I want to travel. And you're like, okay, then start working on it, right?
Right.
So, but at that time, I was still at the clinic 5 days a week. I was still trying to run my other businesses, and it came down to that decision of, well, wait a minute, I'm not doing what I'm talking about.
Right.
I have to free myself from these schedules so that I can have the daily decision of, what am I going to do today? Like, who am I going to meet with? What am I going to work on? but then that just releases creativity.
Yes.
Because you do quiet the noise. It's like, okay, what don't I need in my life? Or who can I get to do it?
Yes.
To help me with it.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it all yourself. If you're trying to market yourself, even like these influencers, right? At some point, you're going to have a production team around you. You're going to have.
Absolutely.
It's not just that person.
Yeah.
Even this, I was like, we were talking about, this is another one that you made me manifest, was doing this. But it took a long time to go, okay, well, how do I do it?
Yes.
Well, I got to go buy all this equipment. How's it going to look? And then just through thinking about it, I was like, okay. And then I talked to some businesses that are like, oh, we can do it, but it's going to cost a ton of money. It's like, geez. But kept thinking about it, and then it's like, who could do it? It's Mo. I got to talk to Mo, but I don't want to steal him away from another guy. But I asked the question.
Yeah.
Right? So I asked Gabe, who used to work with Mo. I was like, hey, do you know what Mo's up to? Like, would he be interested in a little side deal? I don't want to steal him. I feel bad.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. Ask him. So Mo and I met, and I was like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. It's just, this is what I want. He's like, what, are you kidding me? I'm not working there anymore. I'm trying to do my own thing. So
great.
I was just like, awesome.
So
when
great.
can we do this? And our first episode was Mo and I talking about my story, and now he's entering that entrepreneurial world.
Yeah.
And the family world.
Oh my God.
Glutton for punishment, I
Yeah,
see.
you got a 1-year-old and you decide, maybe it's time. Or you don't decide, you let the universe decide for you.
Yeah. That's the thing that people don't understand. The universe is going to decide either way.
Right.
So you can feed it and you can fuel it with the things that you actually want and that focus, or you can decide to focus on the things you don't want, and it's going to deliver. It's going to deliver. Nothing is going, time's not stopping.
Right.
The universe spinning is not stopping. Like it's happening. Right. So it can happen for you or against you.
Well, I think that's one of the things that people need to understand is not making a decision is making a decision.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
You can't just say, oh, I'm not even going to worry about it.
Yeah.
You are worried about it.
Yes.
And you are putting energy out,
Yes.
but you're attracting the wrong thing.
Right. And deciding to stand still in indecision is actually I'm going to fawn here. That fight, flight, fawn, or freeze.
Right.
I'm going to fawn right here and just decide to do nothing about it. Instead of deciding to say, you know what, I'm going to proactively actually kind of get in front of this.
Right.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to even potentially fail on this.
Right.
I'm going to do this, and I could be a hot, steamy pile of garbage.
Right.
And you're still doing the thing.
Yeah, because you got to move. You don't. There's no guarantees, right? And I think it's one of the hardest things for creators like us to. You have an idea, like, okay, this is where I'm going to go. But then if you have somebody asking you questions about it, it's like, well, how are you going to do it? Well, what about this? Well, what about that?
Right.
It's like, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I've got to start inertia, right? I got to start the movement. I got to get it going first and then build steam on top of that.
Right.
Instead of, oh, you're right. But that brings up two things. One, back to manifesting. I did take your 410s. The second one was obstacles, right? Mm-hmm. So I've worked with several people, and I'll have them do their obstacles. But then I started having them say, okay, take your 10 obstacles. Mm-hmm. Now flip them over. What's the opposite of your obstacle?
Yeah.
Focus on that.
Right.
And your obstacle goes away.
Right.
Right? So if it's procrastination, it's one of my obstacles. Okay, well, what's the opposite of procrastination?
Yeah.
Oh, being early. Okay, well, focus on the positive.
Yeah.
Focus on the negative.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I'm a procrastinator. Oh, I just never get anything. Well, that's a decision then. You're
Absolutely.
deciding to stay like in that place.
Yeah, absolutely. And people begin practicing that just because their brain has already written a permission slip that categorized them as a procrastinator.
Right.
All their friends know it. Oh man, I just know how that's how he is. Oh, I know he's always 10 minutes late. It's cool. That's how.
right.
So your brain wrote the permission slip. Your friends support that, and that's why that kind of like moving into greatness. Sometimes you don't take the same people with you.
Right. I think that's another piece that people don't understand. It's like when you start to move, when you start to change,
Yeah.
you're going to get hit with the critics, the cynics,
Yeah.
the people hoping I mean, I think it's one of the weirdest things is we say we love the underdog story in America, but we don't. Because
Interesting.
we love it. We love watching them go up, but as soon as they get up, people start tearing them down.
Or they're waiting
Yeah.
to see the human parts.
Yeah, wait for the fall.
Let's wait for the fall.
Oh, yeah. And then I used to say that about entrepreneurship. Like, everybody likes to watch an entrepreneur take off, but most of them are waiting for the jet to explode. Right?
Yeah. And there's a part of that inside of us, I think, as people that is inspired by the story. But then the second it attaches to our concept, our own concept, anytime you feel less than, anytime you feel
Right.
you would not be capable, then you're waiting for the fall.
Right.
Then you're waiting. Because
Yeah,
there are those times when you're set in yourself, I'm like, good for them. And I'm straight up good for them. Like, I
Right.
can't even think about, oh my gosh. But that jealousy attached to that is when you think you cannot get that yourself.
Right. So and nothing's worse than somebody having a spotlight on something you can't attain.
Right.
You want them to fall.
Right.
Because then the spotlight's off. Like, see, that's why I didn't do it. You see, that
Yeah. I'm not trying to do
I
that.
tried to start a business and
Yeah.
it failed. So
Yeah.
let's see how crazy that was. That's why I've never done it, because I knew that was going to happen.
Right.
Right. Hindsight's 20/20. Everybody always knows. See, I told you.
Yeah. And that's why parents try to protect kids from going into the music industry. Well, you don't want to, like the odds on you actually doing anything of worth talking about.
Right.
Where it's like, I know, I'll give them different odds. I'm going to give you somebody else's career. I'm going to walk you through their career. I'm going to tell you how much they make per year. I'm going to tell you what they do. Well, they do national commercials. They make about $500,000 a year. They work maybe a couple days a week. So I'll tell you that story.
Right.
Your parents don't know that story.
Right.
Because the industry doesn't talk about that story. We talk about the people who did what happened the other day with the anthem, with Ingrid Andress there. And then we talk about Taylor Swift.
Right. Yeah, the fails. Oh, my God.
We're not talking about all the things in between.
Right.
And there's so many things in between, and it's the same thing with life. It's the same journey. It's the me seeing your dream, me seeing the things that are all encompassing of you, you knowing that your strength is in finding the who's.
Right.
You brought that.
Right.
And you knowing, okay, I look at you as your coach at the time. It's like, hey, this is what my job is. My job is to bring your dream to fruition,
Right.
show you what's in your way, make a plan, a massive action plan about getting those things out of your way, and then let's get going.
Yeah, and I think that massive action plan is another key that people, it's not a little action,
No,
right?
no.
If you want to change something, it's a major shift. It's
Yes.
not just like, I'm going to dabble in this over here.
Yeah.
It's like the real estate market. People are like, oh, I'm going to get my real estate license because they make money. If you're going to dabble,
of 'em do.
if you dabble in it, you're never going to make
Yeah.
money, right? You've got to be in there every day. The ones that make the money, the big names you see. But if you actually look behind the curtain at the amount of work in any business, right?
In any profession whatsoever,
Yeah.
if you look behind the curtain,
Right.
that's that my most interesting thing. And it's so funny. I've always thought about, I'm going to do a day in the life of an entrepreneur, a performer, a coach, because I thought about that the other day. Like, I just responded to someone. They asked me if they could interview me for this something, and I said, yeah, for sure. And I was like, I'm actually doing a podcast tomorrow, and then I'm in the studio the day after that, and then I'm coaching the day after that, and then I'll be in LA the day after that. And it's like just a day in the life of where it's like, people don't even know. And it's so funny because I don't talk about it so much. So when I see people, they say, what are you up to these days?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, where do I start?
Yeah, exactly. People ask me too. So what are you doing? I'm like,
All of it.
watching people's heads explode when I tell them what I'm trying to.
What's today? I'll just talk about
I'd
today.
really rather not tell you because you're just going to be like,
Yeah. and conceptualization, they don't even grasp the concept. You'll know the second you start talking. Well, actually, I have this group, and then I coach this group, and then I lead this group, and then I started doing this, and I started my podcast, and then I have this, and I have where they start to glaze over.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
your information's making them tired.
Right. Well, because I think it's that. It goes back to that scarcity versus abundance mentality.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way you could do that in a day.
Yes.
I didn't say I was spending 8 hours on each of these tasks.
Right.
Like, I just said I'm getting it done.
Yeah,
It could
I'm
be
a highly skilled
It could
professional.
be a 5-minute phone call. It could be an email.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like, if you really control your time. I mean, I get hourly workers. That's certain people. That's what you need.
We
right?
need them.
Yeah, love them. It's just knowing yourself, though, to know that, hey, if, like, I know both of us, I prefer to get paid on the project.
Right.
Whether it takes me 100 hours or 5 minutes,
Right.
it shouldn't matter. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be, I'm giving you a billable hour, right? It's
Yeah.
like, no, this is, if I can get it done faster because I've got the connections. And I think that's something else we share on it together is connecting.
Oh yeah.
Just because you never know, right? You meet people, have the conversations, learn about them, and then you never know when it's going to pop back up. But we've laughed about this a lot, right? You run into somebody, and they'll, especially if you're a connector, somebody will tell you something. Oh, my brother-in-law is looking for a job. Oh, what's he do? Well, if you don't ask the questions, like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Instead of, like what industry? And I've had several meetings with people. Like, that's how I hired Ken originally.
Yeah.
I don't really have a job for you, but I know a lot of people. So why don't you come in and talk to me? And then my brain will start working on who do I know that's looking for that.
Right.
And I still have those meetings with people like, okay, what are you up to? If they're only, and then a few days later, it's like talking to somebody else. And they're like, I'm looking for somebody to do this. And it's like, oh, wait.
I just talked to someone
I
yesterday.
just talked to somebody
Yep.
that told me that. So I think it's that being open, though. And it's kind of my worry now with social media and the instant stuff is if you don't have the conversations and you don't have real connections,
Right.
then you don't know. And it's everything's just a snippet now or an echo chamber.
Oh yeah.
And we're losing that ability to have conversations and then just put it out there like, okay. Because like you said earlier, if you don't ask, you never know the answer, right?
No, and you don't even know sometimes to think to push past that no or push past that obstacle
Right.
to know you can actually ask past that no.
Right.
You can ask why.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Awesome. Tell me why.
Right.
I just want to know.
Which is your original feedback the first time you tried out for Idol, right?
Yeah.
It could have been just no.
Yes.
But it's like, okay, I'm willing to take the information of why.
Right.
And more importantly, do something about it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden the doors fly open.
And change that's what I teach my clients though. And hopefully that's honestly what you took away from the work that we got to do together and even still get to do together still, is that you are the magic.
Right.
It's you. No one else is going to go out and create what you're creating,
Right.
even if they tried. That you are the special ingredient. You are the key formula.
Which is a weird thing to get to when you come from backgrounds like ours.
Right.
Because you're never told that.
No.
You're just a number.
No.
You're number 2, 3, 1
Yes.
in the family line, and you're just a part of this unit. There's nothing. Yeah, he's okay at this, and this one's my artist. This one's my singer. This one's my. But they encapsulate into one, and there's nothing really special about it.
Right.
Right.
And mostly because of fear.
Right.
So when I worked with these kids and I just wrote a program and I did this program it's called Modern Band. And I basically took professional artists and we went into Miramonte and North High to teach kids how to be in a real band. Teach them about the music industry, teach them about interpersonal relationships, success, fear of success, what to do with success. Some people haven't practiced success when you come from that lane.
Right.
So you don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And you think you don't deserve it because no one in your family has it either.
Right.
So there's a lot of shame associated with it when you get it. And then when your family throws shade,
Right.
which they will,
Yeah.
because they're standing in the shade. Why not throw it?
Right.
Where it's kind of like, okay, let's figure out how we're going to do this. So coming in and changing that mindset, that practice mindset of this is how we practice achieving. This is how we practice success. This is also how we practiced dreaming. Because so many people don't practice dreaming because they don't think they can succeed.
Right. And then once you get there, what's the next step?
Right.
To survive it.
Right.
So, because we've talked about the number of performers or actors or athletes that reach a certain level. And I thought it was interesting what you said about making the top 10, because every year in sports, you see the people come in, like every high school kid thinks, I'm going to play in the major leagues, right?
Right.
But that's their goal.
Right.
And the 1% or whatever that get there, if that was their goal just to make it, and you don't shift to, okay, now I made it,
Yeah,
I
what
want
do
to be
you
a
do now?
starter, or I
Yes.
want to be a legend. And then the ability to keep going
Right.
and pushing past the next level. Or are you a statistic that, yeah, you made it, but then 2 years later you're out?
Right.
I mean, the number of people that, oh, yeah, I played in the NFL, or I played Major League Baseball. Major League? Well, minor leagues. I got hurt, or
Yep.
I got screwed by a coach, or because then you got to justify it to yourself.
Right.
You don't want to say, I didn't put in the work.
Right. That's the story.
Right.
So the second you hear a story that lacks ownership, I stop listening.
Right.
I stop listening because perception is everything. Perception is everything. And if you perceive that you have the ability to control the outcome, your success is inevitable.
Right. Because you're going to do whatever it takes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Regardless of obstacle, regardless of no. And you know me, I change the rules all the time
Yeah.
because everything in this whole wide world is made up.
I know. That's another piece that I think it's what's reality.
Right.
Whatever the hell you think it is.
Whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Whatever you want it to be.
Right. So
Yeah.
be careful with it, because it's all filters, and it's how when you see something or see an action and you run it through your filters, then you make it whatever.
And that's based upon like what your subconscious operational style is, that 2 to 7 years old operational comprehension,
Right.
where our brain is 90% of subconscious mind and 10% conscious cognitive reaction, where it's like, what are you practicing? Like, even when I wake up in the morning, I practice now, like if there are deep seated trigger responses in me, where I find myself activated in any way, any room, anything, I ask myself, what's that from?
Right.
Oh, that's, you know what? That's my fear of abandonment.
Right.
That's because I didn't have a dad. That's because I had a mom who was working all the time. That's because I was parentified. Okay, great. So we're going to go back to the root of that. We're going to reprogram that neural pathway and create a whole new system of understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that The Untethered Soul was one of the books you said you should read
yeah.
this.
That's a life-changing book.
Yeah, because we don't think about it, right? Until you read something, it's like, we have the ability, and I know you told me this a lot, and to step out of it.
Yeah, to sit in the seat of consciousness.
Yeah, to go to consciousness, not interact with the battles in your head.
No.
Just watch it. And one of the things I love that you say is, just be curious about it. Like,
Yeah.
why did I react like that?
Yeah.
What about that song did I go, wow, that was awesome, I love that song, or, oh God, I hated
Yeah.
that song? Mm-hmm. Why? Like, what makes one song so powerful? And then I think it's funny with music, because it can trigger people, right?
So good.
But it's amazing how I can hear a song and be like, oh my God, this is the greatest song I've ever heard.
Right.
And then you play it for somebody, and they're like, it's
Yeah,
all
it's
right.
okay.
Well, it's great. I don't think it's the greatest, which is always the funny thing about. I hate the conversations of the GOAT, who's the greatest of all time. Whether it's singers, athletes, actors, it's like you can't do that.
No.
Like
It's all
you
perception.
can't- Yeah, so it's this guy. What was that quote I saw the other day? Like somebody somebody said that. Well, Jerry Rice, if he played today, he wouldn't make a team because he was like, yeah, he's 60.
Yeah. That's going to be a little hard, Jerry. Can you put your walker down, please, honey? We're going to just run this
Gonna
really
run
quick.
some routes here real quick. But on the other end of it, I think it was Michael Jordan. Somebody asked him about could the Bulls beat the Lakers or wherever. He goes, if they played, what do you think the outcome would be? He goes, oh, we'd probably win by 3 or 4. They were like, really? Why is that? And he goes, well, we're all in our 60s now.
Mm-hmm.
So he was talking about, his mind was completely opposite, right? He wasn't saying, Jordan is crazy. But it was awesome. Like, we'd still beat him.
Yeah, by 3 or
Well,
4.
we're all 60. Like, it's like, dude. But I think that shows different mindsets of people, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah, I'm still that good.
Yeah.
I still think.
I love that. I love looking at people too. I look at people too through a lens of that is their selected coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. So when you're in a disagreement of somebody, or you're watching somebody's behavior be a little twisted or be like different than yours, or an operational style of what we are in this state, our political state, for example, where it's twisted on both sides. It's that just polarization that's so unnecessary, where it's just if we were to observe something and just observe its difference, but not judge it, and just acknowledge, oh yeah, that's just a little different than what I'm choosing to do or how I'm operating, that polarization neutralizes.
And that's what I like, that there's an old quote by Francis Bacon and it ends with weigh and consider.
Yeah.
That's really our role is, okay, listen to read and learn, but weigh it and consider it. Like, how does this really fit into my worldview?
Right.
Because if you're just absorbing it without questioning it, it skews your whole view. Like,
Right.
oh, this is absolutely truth. Well,
Right.
guess what? There's very little absolute truths in the world, right? Like,
Yeah.
because it's all reality and perception.
Yeah. I think about if people were to take the same amount of energy that they put into something else, so like a negative amount of energy into something else, if they were to put that same amount of energy into achieving their own dreams, what would our world look like today?
Right. And that it's possible.
Oh, it's so possible.
I think that's the part that when you talk to people, it's like, oh, I never was able to do that because.
Yeah, that permission slip.
Okay, well, you didn't go because you had already decided that's not possible
Right.
for me.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that I love about you working with all these kids and just performers. Like, okay, here's what you can do. I've got the roadmap for you.
Oh, yeah.
You got to do the work.
Absolutely.
And then also the delusional side of, because I talk to parents more sports side, but parents are like, oh, this is what I want my kid to do. Okay, but what do they want to do?
Right.
You can't take your dreams and put them on somebody else.
Oh, no.
Because it's up to them to decide, yeah, I'm willing to do this work.
Yeah.
Because if not, it falls apart quickly, right?
Right.
You'll see it. I'm sure you see it with people like,
Well, I don't even take the clients that I know it's the parent's dream.
right.
I don't take them.
Yeah.
They're not my client.
Right.
You can go train down the road. You can get your kid coaching somewhere else. But I coach high achieving performers. I coach high achieving entrepreneurs.
Right.
And it is their dream, and it's the dream that propels them to tomorrow. It's the dream that propels their practice every day. Right. It's the dream that initiates and activates their brain while they're sleeping, and you wake up and you are just thought dumping. And then you wake up and you are in your alpha brain and you are manifesting and you are building and you are creating everything that you and I are sitting around that now surrounds you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, from the time we start talking, like, we'll decide, like, what do you want it to look like?
Right.
And that was re-tapping into the creativity that I had put away for years.
Right.
It's just like, oh, don't create.
No.
It makes
Nose to the
messy.
grindstone.
Yeah.
You're a CEO.
Yeah, run the
you're
business.
a president. This is what you do. This is
Right.
what you're supposed to do.
But it wasn't until I re-engaged the creativity. It was like, well, why can't I?
Right.
Oh, fine. This is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And I mean, it's when you talk to visionaries, but I think visionaries have a hard time because sometimes it's too much energy to tell people, like, right?
Oh.
Like, oh, what are you up to? Well, I'm going to create this.
Yeah.
How are you going to do that? Don't know yet. I just know I'm going to create it. Like,
And it's not really for them to know.
right.
I've decided, it's so funny because even when I get those courtesy conversations of, what are you up to and all that, I actually don't even care about sharing anymore. Before, when I felt I had something to prove,
Right.
when I was lost, when I was not really proud of kind of like the direction of my career at times. And then I thought, man, those connective journeys, again, that one thread throughout where it's like I got that, show on the road and then I got injured. And then I started a partnership with Garden Pathways and to mentor kids. That was 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going into my 15th year of mentoring kids
awesome.
from my hometown.
Right.
And it all happened because of that injury.
Right.
I wouldn't have even been home
Right.
to do that. My career wouldn't have taken that path.
Yeah, you'd been still out chasing in the
Doing
other
what I'm
thing,
doing.
right?
Yeah.
But now you've taken it and turned it into amazing programs with Garden Pathways at the high schools, and then seeing the successes of your students.
Oh,
And I know as a coach that nothing's better than,
nothing's better.
I don't need the championship trophy. Nothing's better than watching, being like, yeah,
But even you, like you're a client of mine. It's like watching you do the things. That's why those are the clients I take. So they have three things. I take the ones who have the heart,
right,
who have the functioning capacity, and who absolutely are ready to be coached.
right. And I think that is huge.
Because I can close the gap. I can close your functioning capacity to your potential capacity.
Right,
That's what I specialize in closing the gap.
right,
So when you think, oh, okay, I'm not even going to be able to be heard in this realm, or I don't feel confident about this or whatever, that's where we close the gap.
right,
Where your actuality of like, okay, I'm thinking about a thing, and now it's not just a thought, it's an absolute thing.
right.
You've created it. You've brought it to life.
Yeah, you create it before, right? And it's like, okay.
And it's just in you. And I love that. That's what I love about you is you refuse to let any of your dreams die inside of you.
Correct. Probably. Someone would say to a fault, but I think it's just
No,
It's opened
to a
up
fault
life to-
for them.
for them, right?
Because so many people do not dare greatly.
Right.
So many people do not agree to get in the arena. They would rather judge in the arena.
Right. And I think that's a big piece of anything in life is the naysayers, the critics, the cynics. It's like, okay,
It's noise.
it's your opinion. It's
Straight,
noise.
it's straight up noise. Everything is made up. I don't even care what unhappy people think.
Right.
No part of me. If someone's like, oh, they actually think you're really bad at singing and they think you're a bad parent, they're probably right on one of those.
Jury's out. But
Nope, Friday's my good parenting day, so it must be bad at singing. So, yeah, so it's, I don't know. I look at all of it as why not live your life all the way? Why not live your life on blast? Why not decide to show up for yourself, for your dreams, for your life, for your people? Why not?
right.
You could stay at home, but everything is hard either way.
Right.
Being 400 pounds is hard. Working out is hard.
Right.
That whole choose your hard, where it's like, okay, I'd rather not be that. I'd rather you be able to use all my instruments that I've been given.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it is that daring greatly, right? You can set little goals, and if that's what it takes to get some inertia going,
Oh yeah.
set little goals, get it moving. But then start opening up to, wait, what else could I do?
Right.
Oh man, what else could I? And I think it's that constant motion once you get it going,
Yeah.
and just looking at the world like, wow, that's I love that curiosity part, right?
Yeah.
Because I've used that now. It's like if I'm starting to get irritated about something, it's like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
But not try to solve it. Just rise above it and be like, okay, I'm just going to observe it. I'm just curious of why
Right.
this is happening.
Yeah. Why does that get you? Why does that activate you?
And that was one of the things that Corey Gonzalez, who I'm trying to get on here someday, but he did a presentation about toxic people. Mm-hmm. And I thought my favorite part of it was, what is it about you that makes them toxic? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, okay, they're a narcissist or they're a, but their only power is triggering you.
Right.
So if you know your triggers,
Right.
then you take away all their power.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because you know yourself. It's like, I'm not going to react to you because that's what you want.
Right. That like when there was that heavy cancel culture, and even that violates my boundaries. And while that's necessary, while that's needed, while that is relevant in our society today, I always think, what if each one of us grew our emotional capacity to be able to deal with all of it? Mm-hmm. With all the noise, with all the hate, with all the anything.
Yeah.
So full of like, all right, like, okay.
Well, I think that's part of it, right? Look, if you want to read the last chapter of the Book of Life, somebody's not going to like you along the way.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you've done something right for that to happen.
Exactly. So why are you worried that, this, like you said, this person said that it's not true, so I'm not giving it any energy at all.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what's the test for it, right? This goes back to that. Is it true? Did you hear it firsthand? Is it beneficial?
Yeah.
And if not, then like stop the gossip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because unless you heard it from that person,
Yeah.
you're hearing a story from. And what about you makes you want to hear it?
Yeah, true, helpful,
Yeah, true,
inspiring,
helpful,
necessary,
kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing. And that's just a simple litmus test, right? Like,
Yeah.
why am I telling this story about this person?
Yeah, and why do we perpetuate even that noise to ourselves?
Right.
Like that kind of stuff, drown that noise. Like there's no room for that. There's no if you're in the middle of creating your own success story, if you're in the middle of creating your own special movie where you're the main character, you're him, you're the guy, why not be that guy? Why not show up that guy? And it's so fun. I love that you started this podcast. I love that you did this. The fun part for me, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, there's always stereotypes that follow us. You know, it's that same thing that, people could say, well, she had it very easy. Where it's like, oh, wait, do you know her story? Oh, no, not really. Like, she's really successful, so her parents must have been, like, there supporting her. Like, I didn't go back to school until I was 26 years old.
Right.
And I remember, my boyfriend early on, like, his parents were like, you need to go to school. You need to go to college. And I remember me being like, no. And, he went off and did his big things in life. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to go to LA and be a singer. And I did that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I needed to go to school too.
Right.
And so, even having that information, but when I looked at the stereotypes and I think about so much, being in business and that stereotype of what you are,
Right.
that kind of white male, president or CEO or runs this or runs that. And this is how you are. You're just running around being a giant jerk face to everyone.
Right.
And
Stealing from all my employees.
Yeah. And it's like, you know what? If you could please just start this podcast and break this whole concept of what you actually, like you, in my opinion, are one of those kind of ceiling crushers where you're like, if you only knew him all the way,
Right.
if you only knew the way his heart is, the way he loves, the way it's family first for him, the way his brain activates the second you tell him that somebody needs help or that this is hard for someone, the way you get teary-eyed when you think about being able to be the person that could help inspire someone.
Right.
when you think about everything that you build from the ground up and the lives that it could change. And I thought to myself, if people knew the CEOs like you and the presidents like you, and I know, obviously you're not the CEO now, but because you're the
Fired myself.
you're the man about town, living the dreams.
That's right.
But I know that, and that you get to fire yourself. That if people could see that part of the person that is this operational style, that is showing up in the way that you're showing up, the way you're pouring into people, and the way you're pouring into telling other people's stories and why you think that they matter, and you continuing to show up even when you don't have to.
Yeah. I think that's it. But that comes from that manifestation that working with you is like,
Yeah.
hey.
So you have me to thank. That's
Yeah.
That's all I took away
So
from
here's
this.
your parting gift.
An old cup of a team I don't care
It's been
about.
been used a lot. But it's still good. It still holds water.
Wow, thank you. I feel so moved. So no, but I mean,
Well, thank you for that.
It's true.
I think that's part of it, though. Is like I want people to tell their stories for that reason.
yes,
Like, stop thinking when you see a doctor in it, oh, well, he came from a rich family and went to the best schools. No, dude was an immigrant
right.
and had to work from the ground up. Then you see, like, Morgan, that, hey, he was down and out and grew this huge company.
Good human too. Look at the work he
great.
does.
Oh, look at that. Amazing. And that's what I think, if people really understand it, and that came from your idea of, like, we need to tell the real stories.
Oh yeah, there's so much more.
It wasn't like, Amy Adams is on American Idol. Oh, well, I heard that she was raised in Seven Oaks and her parents dumped tons of money into her.
Oh yeah.
I don't know who you're talking to.
I please meet them.
Well, they left me out of their will at some point.
I still have to finish my degree, so if they could pay for that, that'd be awesome.
So I just love creative people, and everybody that we're going to have on is that same story of in different fields, in different areas, but how they got there.
Right.
Because I think that's what we lose a lot with us, this small clip world we live in.
Yeah.
Is we don't hear those stories.
No. And I think those are the stories that are the life-changing stories. I mean, even the story like my story where it's like, I'm able to work as much as I want in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you decide.
My choice. And that's the thing. Like even I could call Luann today. I could call her today and say, hey, what's going on right now? What can I get on? She could get me a job and a high-paying job, literally, in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Great. Do I want to do that? No. I have a 9-year-old daughter.
Right.
I'm
so
raising a 9-year-old daughter.
Part, right? Like, right now, this is what I'm doing.
Right. And this is the part of my journey. And that's what I love. And that's why I feel the success in teaching working with the clients I have now. And I mean, I work on all different levels, and the entrepreneurs I work with are incredible, but also the influencers I had a chance to work with, incredible. They took their story of, mental health challenges and created a massive empire. And she's one of the greatest influencers today commercially. Her name's Lexi Hensler, and she created an entire line of little kind of support hug animals called hugs that are there for people in challenging times of mental health when you're struggling with mental health things. And she uses her platform for that. And so, that's what I think about when I think of influence. What are you using your power for?
Right.
What are you doing with that?
Right. If you get that spotlight for however long it is, what are you creating next?
Yeah.
And I think that's the creative's brain is that. Like, yeah, I'm working on this now.
Right.
But I'm always looking for what's next.
Right.
Okay, yeah. And now my running joke is I don't like to manage anything. I'd like to create and hand it off and be like, because that's not what I do.
Yeah, you're the entrepreneur. You're the visionary.
Right.
You're not the manager.
No.
I'm not the manager.
Right.
My assistant called me the other day, and I had things to do. I never have things to do unless they're on my calendar. Right. And so she's like, can you write this really quick? It's like, I'm walking around, I'm shopping. Like, I already asked somebody else to do it. So I asked another worker to do it. And she was like, well, did you know that she's in the middle of a meeting? And it's like, yeah, she'll do it when she gets done. But even that kind of stuff, it's like that visionary, your brain has to be freed up for that space for that. So the teammates that we have, and thank God, my assistant never asked me to do anything other than that one time.
Right.
Because I would still say no.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's just wrapping up. It's like your theory of if it's not a hell yes,
Oh, yeah.
it's a hell no.
It's a hell no. I'm not trying to do that. Because you'll know, and I mean, I love my man so much, but he will ask me, hey, do you want to blah, 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 and then take all of the kids camping and it's like, I love you so much. You are the sweetest, dearest heart. I know this idea sounds awesome in your head, but let's actually track what this looks like. So we're taking 4 children camping.
Right.
We're like, let's walk through, what are we doing during our days when they don't have internet service? Let's walk through this.
Yeah.
He's like, it was just an idea. I was like, oh, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
So we can still think about it, or we can just say no.
It's just so nice. Let's think about something else that they have something to do.
Yeah, but that energy, and it's that same rumination on if you're not doing something with the thoughts inside of you, then either stop thinking about it or do something about your thoughts.
Right.
That traction is what's necessary. So taking action is the adverse to fear.
Right.
Any fear you have, take action on it. Right.
Yeah.
And that is how you begin to achieve.
Just
That's
move.
how you get that traction.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate it.
My freaking pleasure, man. Give me my cup.
No, I was joking. Yeah,
You can have this water bottle.
this and some lobster bisque
You
one
know
of these
what?
days.
Oh my gosh, your lobster bisque. Give it to me. I need that.
Yeah, well, I haven't done it in a while. I'll have to order some.
What did we do it last fall? Was it fall or winter?
About a year ago, wasn't it?
So good. So
We'll do it
good.
again.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. This is awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.